Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an organizer and may now speak to any other organizers or panelists on the line. When you are ready to begin the presentation, press the Start Broadcast button on the GoToWebinar control panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Chrissy West, and with me I have Lauren Robertson, our Digital Advocacy Manager, and Liz Twilley, our Social Media Manager. And we're going to go through preparing for legislator visits today.
And if you all, I know right now we don't have any attendees on, but this will be recorded. So if you all have questions after the recording, please feel free to reach out to us with your questions.
Okay, so just some housekeeping items. We don't really need to talk about this because we don't have anyone on yet. So our agenda, we'll do welcome introductions, what to expect during your visit, crafting your elevator pitch, what to bring to your visit, using social media, and CCAOA resources and next steps. So I already introduced myself. I'm Chrissy West, Advocacy Manager for, Director of Advocacy for Child Care Aware of America. And we have Lauren Robertson, our Digital Advocacy Manager, who has sort of a sore throat and probably won't talk much, and Liz Twilley, our Social Media Manager here. Okay, so what to expect at your meeting. So there are a few things to know. Basically, you need to expect the unexpected at these meetings. When you make your appointment, you'll want to show up, a little bit early, a few minutes if you can, and introduce yourself to the staff people at the front desk. So you'll want to know the name of the person that you're supposed to meet with, especially if it's another staff person, and just let them know that you're there and whether or not your home party is there. Your meeting's probably not going to start on time because legislators and their staff are usually busy and running from meeting to meeting, so please be patient and as flexible as you possibly can. Obviously, we all have lives outside of this work. If you're scheduled for 30 minutes, you're probably only going to get about 15. Do the best that you can with the time that you have. Make sure you're introducing yourself, talking about the purpose for the meeting, and then pivot to your personal story and your ask. Leave time for questions at the end so that staff or elected officials have time to kind of interrupt, ask questions, especially when you have an ask. If they ask questions about the bills or legislation that you're proposing they support, they'll probably want bill numbers. You'll also want to engage them in conversation. Make sure you share your personal story so that they know that as a constituent, you're someone that's going through this issue that you're talking to them about. And you'll want to end with the call to action. So what do you want them to do when you leave their office? Usually it's support a bill, co-sponsor a bill, vote for a bill on the House or Senate floor. You want to make sure that you're really clear about that and what the legislation is. And then if you have materials, you'll want to make sure that those are ready beforehand and that you have a couple copies to leave behind. So at least one for the staffer and potentially even another copy for an additional staffer if they want to share, or even the legislator themselves. And then my rule that I say for basically everything, this goes for meetings, town halls, whatever, pics or it didn't happen. So crafting your elevator pitch. Like we said, you may have 30 minutes scheduled, but you'll likely get 15. So you want to make sure that your story is tight. You don't want to ramble. You don't want to add in a bunch of stuff that isn't really relevant to your ask. So you want to make sure that you have this prepared in advance and you practice, maybe on a friend or a coworker or someone before you actually go into your appointment. We can, give the legislators stats on child care and early education, but what we can't give them is your story. And so it's really important that you make it personal and that you tie it to an ask at the end. So crafting your elevator pitch. It should kind of have 3 phases. You'll have your background where you'll share who you are, what you do, and the point of your story. You're going to paint your picture of childcare with your experience, whether you're trying to highlight accessibility, cost, health and safety issues. Then you're going to describe the challenge. So it could be that health and safety requirements aren't highly funded enough and you're worried about the safety of your children in care. Whatever the situation is, you're going to highlight that challenge. And then the next step is always the tangible action step for the legislator. So how you want them to solve this problem. We never go in with an issue unless we also have suggestions on how to fix it. Okay, so keeping it short and sweet. You're going to want to practice, practice, practice. Especially if you can, grab a legislator maybe on their way to another meeting. Sometimes they're overbooked and you can only talk to them, between meetings as you're racing down the hall. You want to practice your story, make sure that it's short, but even if it's emotional, that you're still able to convey that within the story. Don't add unnecessary details. Keep it to one story and one issue. You don't want to have 15 legislative asks. No one's going to be able to support all of that and get it all into one kind of cohesive message. Don't overload them with facts. Leave time for questions, and then center it around the personal. So the reason why you're there is really to share your story. If you're a CCR&R or a provider, it might be working with the families at your center or that come to you for assistance. It might be the children in your care. It might be the parents' personal stories that you talk to. It might be your story running a center. Whatever that is, you want to make sure that you tell it from your perspective. What to bring to your visit. So CCAOA has lots of options, and the R&Rs usually do as well. You'll want to make sure that you have facts supporting the issue that you're there to talk about, whether that's bringing in a state fact sheet, the high cost of care in your state, whatever resources you can bring, one-pagers, things that are easy for staffers to kind of read and understand without having a full background of the very complex system of early childhood that we work in. And then tying it all together. If you have the resources in your staff or at your center or personally to create some kind of a one-pager that puts everything in one place, that's really ideal, only because, staff especially are really short on time. If they have one thing that they can look at that has everything, it's really helpful to them. So this is an example. We create one-pagers for our Day on the Hill every spring. This is our family advocate in California, Julia. She's really great. We share her story very briefly, also with a picture of her, some stats on childcare in California, which is the state she lives in, and then our congressional request. This was actually 2 years ago's request, so it's a little outdated, but you'll see we have it basically outlined there. We want them to support this bill, and here's what this bill does. And then at the bottom, we actually have contact info for the advocate, too, in case the legislator wants to get in touch with them about their personal story. So you see all 3 pieces pulled together into one material or resource that the legislator can take and actually reference, whether they're in a hearing or giving testimony or hearing testimony, and they can actually refer to these pieces. And then sharing on social media. And this is where I'm going to turn it over to Liz Twilley, our social media manager, and she'll just give you a few steps on how to make sure your visit's successful.
Hi, this is Liz. I'm the social media manager for Child Care Aware of America. After your visit, we would love for you to share your experience on social media. You can follow us at Child Care Works. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. But we want you to share your experience, and so we want you to take pictures and get a group shot with whoever you were meeting with. And then we want you to post it. Tag your representatives in the post. You can also tag us. We would love to see it. And then give a little synopsis about your story and kind of do a little reminder about what you were talking about, what you meant about, what your ask was, just to give them a little update after the fact.
Legislators love that stuff. And then CCAOA resources. So we want you to steal from us. please do. We create resources so that we can share them with the R&Rs, with the providers, with advocates, and we want you to use these on your visits to the Hill or your state house. So some resources that we offer are digital action centers, where you can actually find issues that we're working on and take action and send an email to your elected officials. Social media, you can actually follow us. You can say hi to Liz while you're there at Child Care Works on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our state fact sheets, we put out new ones every year, so there should be updated stats for whatever your state is. And then the cost of care report. We also have site visit one-pagers, which we can share links to with the link to this video. And those include visits on how to prepare your site, if you want a legislator to come to your CCR&R or to your child care provider in your district, especially if they're high quality, and let them kind of see. So we have resources for the CCR&R on how to prepare your provider for a visit, and then for the providers on how to prepare their center for a visit. And we also offer general training and technical assistance here at CCAOA. And so if you have questions or just need assistance or want to grow your capacity in any area, we're able to provide that. You can reach out to us, and your R&Rs have our contact info.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. And I just want to add that we will be sending this really brief webinar out with a bunch of resources for you all to prepare for your Advocacy Day on the Hill on March 13th. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you're unsure about your legislator visit or you're feeling nervous about it, we are here as a resource and happy to support you in that as well. So we'll be sending out the recording and our resources shortly. We know this is very brief, but we wanted a quick and dirty breakdown of legislator visits so they didn't feel as daunting if you've never done them before, and that if you have done them before, giving you some more resources to make your visits even better. I think with that, we're going to say goodbye, and we will see you all on the internet soon.
Thanks, everyone.